we have the story of capacity building, awareness, cyber laws, making sure that we collaborate, making sure that we provide statistics so that those people who are working on this field understand the hotspot and be able to act accordingly so that we can reduce cyber crimes.
I will say the number one is actually collaboration, because it's only through sharing of information that, for example, if there is a lot of attacks on the banks and the banks are not sharing information between themselves, sharing statistics of what is happening, there won't be a method, techniques of coming together to go against that. There has to be a collaboration. The same thing with government and all other agencies. So if you look at it, most of the statistics that you see for the African nations is not found locally. Usually there are research people that have done the research outside the continent. And because sometimes it's easier for them to give out that information to an external party outside their own country than for them to give internally. So for example, a bank cannot write to a bank to say, what are the major threats you are facing? And that has been the challenge. The government is not collaborating. If there are issues within government, they never divulge it to anybody. It's within government. So that idea of coming together to collaborate so that, it's with discussions that you can identify the problems and then find the solution. One of the major threats, for example, to the Nigerian system is the insider job. Mostly someone within the bank, perpetrate the crime. It's not really an external person. And based on that, there are certain things that are taking place now to ensure that is mitigated. So it's more of collaboration. And in Nigeria, because we have the National Cybersecurity Policy and Strategy, there is a body that they are trying to create called the National NCCC, National Cybersecurity Coordination Center, so that it can coordinate between all the various sectors that are ICT related. So the banks, the healthcare system, and everyone, so that there is one body that gets the feed of information, and based on that, they will be able to take action. So for me, the takeaway is collaborate and share. Thank you.
I mean, I would like to add submission with a permission, shall I?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I completely agree with the same in Indian perspective here. Like, we do have a Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center, and it was recently formed. And the purpose is, again, cybercrime is a borderless crime, and we're not focusing only in India, because a person may initiate from some neighboring country or some different country. So that is, for that we need a coordination within the cities, within the LEAs, within the PPP, basically private sectors, you can say, or international intermediaries, international stakeholders, banking sectors, ICTs, or you can say critical infrastructures. Suppose we take one example, if there is any specific cybercrime initiated, so the person may be a private person or maybe a law enforcement body. So exactly, there should be a nodal point, there should be a nodal agency, those who are handling cybercrime perspective issues, not the cybersecurity perspective issues. So here, if they contact initially, or there's a term called golden hours. In that golden hours, if they immediately contact right person regarding that input or that information, so that may reduce the severity of that crime. So like he perfectly said, there is a bank, so there is no technical thing, there's an insider job. So it's not an online mechanism, it's an offline something. So that is one. Similarly, second is called awareness. If we initiate various awareness, like should not click on this phishing mail, ransomware, again, simple. Ransomware, the major 99% things are coming through phishing mails, attachments, exploit kits. If we tell them properly in detailed manner that you should not click these links, if you accidentally click, then immediately contact this system admin or maybe the head of the cybersecurity division. So there should be an email ID or something like that. So that kind of cyber drill, that kind of coordination, that kind of collaboration as well, it is very, very important to know. And the last, very important, that is called the cyber law, the IT Act. if we strengthen our IT Act, IT law for interception, for blocking, for banning, for mitigating risk, and if deliberately some people do some sort of crimes like cryptocurrency related frauds, crypto mining things are there, installing some malwares on some machines, or maybe for study purpose, maybe for gathering more information perspective. So things are there. So awareness, collaboration, coordination, literacy, these entire things are required, and we should have a centralized body, which is a nodal body, which can coordinate among all these vendors, education sectors, college, academia, you can say, or corporate sectors as well, banking, finance sector, because more than 50% crimes, the major focus area is the money, the finance part, and rest is the sabotaging and collecting and harvesting the information of the users. So this is from my input, which is really important in this perspective.
Thank you very much, Kumar. As I've said, he is a good friend of mine from India. And we can see now collaboration is very important, sharing of information, sharing of intelligence, making sure that the problem that happened from one organization should never happen to another organization, because these two has to share intelligence, has to share information that this thing happened to me. I'll give you a good example. For example, you may find a certain crime is very popular in one country today, and these two countries never share this information. People never learn from others that this is a big challenge to our country at the moment. Then you will find the same challenge, the same problem happen to another country. So criminal now understand that we don't collaborate, we don't share intelligence, we don't even talk about these challenges. And I'm glad to know that we have NCC in Nigeria, and in Kenya as well. They already initiated the coordination center to make sure that they coordinate all key law enforcement and other bodies to work together in the name of fighting cybercrime. So I think this is the way to go, to collaborate, and also to make sure that people are fully aware. Now, Toba, your final thoughts?
Thank you so much. I think the previous speakers have said quite a lot. I would just make emphasis on education. Like we mentioned, and as we said a couple of times, that usually the weakest link is the human. And you would notice that many phishing and scammers are very successful. Usually, they're usually very emotional. So for example, we talked about how successful many of these scams around, COVID, and people being afraid of dying and being told that, you have to do this, or you should do this to do that, or people being told that they can make some money if they do this or they do that, right? So scamming mails are like regular advertising. So if you speak to something that affects a person, you have the chance of being successful at convincing that person. So how do people identify scams? How do they identify, phishing? What do they do? And I mean, if this education goes beyond just governments, and the private sector is also involved, because let's think about it. Everybody is a customer to a provider, either an internet service provider, or you buy stuff from the particular provider on the internet. Now, imagine if every provider is doing some kind of education. I believe that we will be able to get through to everyone. If we take this more importantly, I think it can go a long way. I think also that platforms also need to become more serious about security. I know many platforms are now forcing users to enable two-factor authentication as a second level of protection, so that even if you do use a weak password, you can have another additional layer of security. Then you have the likes of Google. So you have password managers, for example, that warn you when your password has been compromised. So you see that the private sector is also trying to help people to protect themselves, because the truth is that staying safe is not easy. I mean, think about it. The recommendation is you should have a unique password for every platform that you log in. How many of us actually stick to that? What are the chances that you remember your password across board? But then you see that, for example, many browsers now recommending strong passwords when you want to log in, and they save them securely for you. You know, you get warnings when your password has been compromised. You get warnings if your password has been used on multiple sites. You know, what that shows is that those platforms are recognizing the fact that to have a healthier and a safer internet, we need to help to protect the weakest link, the users, by making it easier for them to stay safe, or in some cases forcing them to take certain actions to stay safe that they wouldn't have taken. So I think education and encouraging people, and you know, and automating the process of staying safe and, you know, taking a more safer approaches goes a long way. I'm aware, for example, that updates on several platforms are now becoming automatic, and even in some cases being forced, because another way that a lot of compromises happen is when people use outdated software or outdated applications, you know, and so bug fixes are becoming more frequent and more automated. So I mean, the world is trying to play catch up, but I think that as we continue to see more efforts around that, that would help to reduce the human factor. I mean, I was reading a report recently about the fact that the antivirus on the local system is not as important as it used to be about 10 years ago, because now you have more people moving to the cloud, and you also have a lot of these applications getting more secure because updates and bugs are being fixed regularly. We've made some progress, but that means that there's a new problem to fix. How do we protect ourselves on the cloud? So I think in the end, it will always be the situation where we'll get more secured and the bad actors will get more smarter, and we'll just keep trying to play catch up. But I think education will definitely go a long way. Education, enlightenment, and improving the process of people getting more secure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, as you're touching on that, Toba, before you go, I want at least to share, I want you to share a little bit. We have heard my brother Rudman telling us that the government need to be more open to citizens, so that we cannot really get overwhelmed with what is happening on social media as of late. But also, we have heard the story that we don't need to shut down the social media platform. We need to balance between freedom of expression. At the same time, those social media, they should not be used to destabilize our equilibrium, to destabilize our national security and so on. So your views on that as you wind up.
Well, it's really a tough one, because the truth is that when things get to a situation where I think in Egypt, I mean, people were on the streets, were burning buildings, and things were really getting out of hand. And then the question you would ask is, what do you do? A government's responsibility is to protect its citizens. For example, if there's a riot and people are, you know, burning things, even though you have freedom of expression, freedom of movement, those freedoms will be suspended temporarily until when normalcy is returned. So, but like Mr. Rudman said, usually what happens is that we wait to when things get that bad. They shouldn't get that bad before we act on it. I think that if information is shared more freely, I mean, let's think about it. How often does the president of an average African country speak to the citizens? Not a special program, not, you know, an opening of this or an endorsement of that, like basically speaking with the citizens, making it like a standard that at least once a month the citizens get to understand what the government is trying to do and why. And if we have more of those engagements, and those engagements are seen to be honest, you know, there's some level of, you know, honesty. I mean, think about it. Most times when most of our representatives speak, especially at the highest level, there's no room for questioning. They don't actually challenge. They don't get to be challenged on when they make comments, you know, and they have an opportunity to respond. And because there's that lack of transparency, then automatically the citizens would have no choice but use other means to get their voices heard. So I think that has to be dealt with fundamentally. I feel that, I mean, the human system of democracy requires that people are able to speak freely. I do also understand there also has to be a balance in that. And I think that if we have proper laws where things like fake news and people saying things that are untrue to hit up the quality, if there's a balanced way of managing that, where people can speak freely without saying things that are untrue, just to get people to support them, I think we can probably find that balance. So it takes two: from the government angle, more transparency, more communication; from the citizens angle, more responsibility as well, while we also express our opinions as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like that, because actually it's a bit of challenging of late to many countries. If you can recall, even the sitting president of the United States, his all social media platform were forced to shut down because of many things. So I think it's quite a challenging, and we're asking ourselves, so what should we do? Because people need to express themselves in one hand, and we want to hear from them, but how they express themselves, how they can make things even more ugly if we don't act quickly or accordingly, as you have said, and things can get out of hand. I think that is a burning thing. So we can have even a proper discussion on it at length. But let me stop it there. Go to Mr. Charles. Mr. Charles, I want you to give us your final thoughts, and then as you give your final thoughts, I will pose one question to you to also add on top of your final thoughts.
Thank you for the opportunity. So my final thoughts will be centered on the digital economy. I think Africa as a whole hasn't quite caught up to the potential of the digital economy, of the digital age. The enablement of commerce, of the exchange of ideas, of learning, of sharing information, of improving knowledge generally, be it agriculture or healthcare, in a variety of ways. There are a lot of things that are on the internet that can be of benefit to different parts of the African person that they simply don't have access to, right? Or in some cases, even when they do have access to the internet, they do not think to look for on the internet. The realization doesn't actually come in to say, you know what, I could actually do a Google search and see if I can do something about this pest that I'm seeing in my farm, or something or the other like that. And so for me, education, information, awareness of the potential of digitalization, of the revolution it can bring to the African life, be it private lives or businesses or other commercial ventures, is something we really have to do something about. It's really something we have to push. We have to get the word out there that, look, there's so much you can learn, there's so much you can do, there's so much of a difference that this knowledge can make, and we should actively encourage that, right? And beyond that, in the topic of security, security is really about trust, right? It's really about the misuse of trust sometimes, or the bypass of the gatekeepers of trust, right? So when someone has unauthorized access to a system, there obviously has been some mechanism that has been defeated, the mechanism that was supposed to keep unauthorized users out. How do we get people to understand the value of trust, right? If, for example, I want someone to run an errand for me, and I give him my debit card and hand over my PIN and say, oh, because you need to do something for me, this is my PIN, go to the ATM and get some money. Do I actually think through to imagine, what if tomorrow this guy were to get my ATM card without my permission, knowing my PIN, go withdraw all of my money, right? So are people actually aware of the implications of some of those decisions that they make? Do they actually think through to the implications it may have for their security, for their finances, for whatever it is? I want to link this to the last panel on digital literacy to say that I will go back to the point of a chain being as weak, being as strong as its weakest link, right? That if in a community, some people are very security conscious, they're very digitally aware, they're very cyber conscious, and some others are not, well, those that are not will be compromised and will be the backdoor to accessing those who are. And so it is everybody's responsibility that everybody else knows what to do in these situations. We cannot lock ourselves up behind some firewalls and think we are safe if our neighbors are not engaging similar protections, right? So digital literacy, letting everybody come to that basic understanding of what these technologies can do, what they mean, the benefits and the risks, has to be something that we take very, very seriously. And we should not just leave this to the public sector and to the governments, even private organizations. So like Mr. Obaniyi said, there are service providers who have customers. Can we educate our customers? Can we run campaigns? Say, oh, do you know the importance of your password? Do you know this? Do you know that? Now, doesn't have to be limited to just providers of ICT services, right? Any private enterprise that has customers has the potential to educate their customers, even if this were a shop, right? So it's just an e-commerce site, they sell shoes and bags or whatever it is, but you have email lists, you have other communications that can go out. You can put in a word there or a word here, or just a reference to a site that can be authoritative in that regard. But it gives those people the opportunity to get into that headspace of, oh, I really didn't think there was anything to my password. Apparently, there is something about this. This site has informed me, and I can know what to do about it. One other thing I would add is that I would also want us to look into the potential that the blockchain holds, right? That distribution of information in ways that are not falsifiable, or where attempts to falsify can be easily detected, can be of service to keeping information where it belongs, in the hands of the rightful owners, right? And out of, so maybe not out of sight, but at least even if compromise were attempted, it will be detectable. I think those will be my final thoughts. And thank you very much for.
As you're winding up to that, as I said, I want you to add something on top of it. We have these people, you spoke about the inclusion, you spoke about innovations and so, and many other things. So we have a lot of people now, youngsters. I've seen, for example, the story of Tok in the United Kingdom. The person who was behind that attack was a 16-year-old kid. So there is ongoing debate, and I've seen in South Africa, they are having this a program where they involve kids to come to do the hackathon, and they trouble our systems, and later on we ask them to come up with solution, and let's see how we can utilize them. But most of African countries, I've seen also some of these countries, they see someone is clever, can get into our system, can cause troubles, but instead of utilizing that individual, we end up putting that person behind bars. So what would you suggest, or what would be your advice on that?
Education of the policymakers, of the law enforcers, of the people responsible for putting that individual behind bars. They need to understand, they need to be made aware of the potential of working with such a person. Because incarceration really just creates this pent-up fury. If and when this person gets out, he's gonna have his revenge, right? So why take that approach? Why not instead reform that person? Let that ability be put to good use. Be one of the good guys, right? So my answer to that would be education.
Okay, thank you very much for that particular view. And winding up with my brother Deepak Kumar, your final thoughts?
I'm fine with the things which is covered in this scenarios, and I would like to say only one thing, like first of all, thank you for inviting me, and second, the pointers which is mentioned for collaboration, for the coordination, for the awareness and digital literacy, that is literally need of the hours. And from Indian perspective, if you need anything pertaining to cybersecurity or cybercrime or any digital literacy or any policy perspective things, so definitely you may reach out to me. And I have shared certain initiatives on this chat box. You may go through these things. What are the verticals? What are the areas which is required? Because it's not only the technical part, because the citizens are there who are actually dealing with the cybercrime things, digital things. So that is very important to know. So done from my side. Thank you to all the speakers, to all the friends and the listeners who are listening through this channel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deepak. You did not really put a lot there because you're trying to avoid me asking you a question, but I have one for you to wind up, to add on top of what you have just, on top of your final thoughts. What do you think India is doing very good that you want us in Africa, for example, to copy that idea and implement it will be good for us?
Definitely. I mean, first of all, I shared one link that is about the initiative in the area of creating a nodal point, because if you see the areas like law enforcement areas, you can say academies, or you can say institutionals as well, the defense sector. So they just try to find all the areas. Accordingly, they try to create a central body or central, you can say, coordinating agency which can deal with these things. So
briefly in one sentence. So what do you think we should, it's a very good thing that you are doing in India that really makes you do very good in combating cybercrime and DNS abuse, that you wish African continent, you are not sure whether we have it or not, but you think we need to copy that idea so that we can do things in a good way in our African continent? What is it in one sentence?
So again, the collaboration, first of all, and the proper coordination, these two things are there. Later things will come. So coordination and collaboration is very, very important, because India is very big, population is very big. There are many people. So coordination and collaboration is very, very important. This is the important thing.
Thank you very much, my brother Muhammed Rudman, the president of NiRA from Nigeria. And then I had Deepak Kumar, a cybersecurity expert from India. And also I had Toba Obaniyi, who is the CEO, WHOGOHOST Ltd, Nigeria. And also had Charles Oluboyo, a chief technology architect, iPNX, Nigeria. Myself, the word of conclusion, I would say that this was a very good discussion. I really learned a lot from my colleagues as well.
Thank you, Kileo, much appreciated, and thanks to your panelists. This was really heated, and we got a lot of insights from the discussions. And I think at the core of it is the issue of capacity building, especially from an awareness perspective. It's awareness, and awareness. The weakest link is with us as humans, not necessarily with the technology thereof that is there. So it is imperative that we undergo a lot of training and a lot of awareness for us to be able to know how to conduct ourselves in this digital world. It's a new normal for most amongst us. Most people never interacted this much with the digital world before last year. They had a very minimal requirement for them to be online, and all of a sudden you have to do your public services. You engage online, you have to bank online, you have to do education online, you have to do your health online. It's just overwhelming for most people who just started using these platforms. And I highly appreciate for all the experiences that have been shared. Thanks for doing that from India. Deepak, much appreciated. Toba, much appreciated for that. Oluwaseun, Much appreciated for giving your expertise, Mohammed and Kileo. It was great. We highly appreciate it. I think we have come to the end of the day for today, and I think you have we have come to the end of our session and our program for the day. However, we are going to continue tomorrow, 8 o'clock UTC sharp. We start with our session. We have got some links that have been posted on the chat by the panelists, so you can actually go and link to our panelists and also download some of the information that has been shared in that. We are still going to condense and consolidate into a report most of the information that is there. I so hope that our interactions will go beyond just here, and there is a couple of challenges we've been given on these platforms, which is basically to call for action for us to do things, to do something. This education and awareness about cybersecurity seems to have been a very strong message that came from this session, and I know and very much trust in Kileo taking up this challenge. He has spearheaded this in the Southern African region. He tweets more than 5 times a day. I follow him and see what he talks about there in tweets. So that gives us education. It's a start of education and being aware about what happens out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stop it here. Let us meet tomorrow. Be safe.